All right, we're live here in Mass Hysteria, 10:07 p.m. on Friday, and we're gonna get things started here with Ambient Anonymous with Perpetual War.
There is no military solution in Iraq, and there never was. I will begin to remove our troops from Iraq immediately.
I believe U.S. Troop levels need to increase, and for at least a year now I've called for 2 additional brigades, perhaps 3.
The people we're fighting today, we were supporting in the fight against the Soviets.
Today, it is infinitely easier to kill a million people than to control a million
Why are these levels so low? I'm gonna have to turn this up here. Turn my headphones down, 'cause that's pretty loud. Otherwise, noises.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be
Peak volume. Could be a little bit higher. I think these levels could be a little bit higher. The levels.
You can't compete. You can't compete with modern technology, hard workers, 60 cents an hour, repression of their rights by dictatorships abroad, like in China, shipping back into this country. I mean, the auto supply industry is going. The electronic industry is going. The furniture industry is going. I told some corporate executives not long ago, they told me they have to keep up with the global competition. That's why they got to go to China. I said, well, why don't you fulfill that all the way to the top? I know some bilingual Chinese super executives and managers who'd be willing to work for 1/10 of what you guys work. It's so unfair. It's so unfair to the working people in this country. The level of discouragement and depression is an imploding in this country, not just in Appalachia. There's huge underemployment.
That's Ralph Nader too. There's going to be some clips in here from, it's called Ralph Nader and the Billionaires. It was a show that was on, I think, C-SPAN. It's Ralph Nader and Turner dude, Ted Turner from, he's like a billionaire cable dude, and Peter something, this billionaire guy who owns Progressive Auto Insurance, and they talk about, I don't know, what they could or can or do.
Haven't even talked about nuclear weapons or global climate change that are going to be civilization ending within the next 15 years.
Tell us what you're doing about that, which is very substantial.
I'm trying to get it on the agenda by coming to meetings like this and talking and not getting paid anything to do it. Just out of curiosity, are you getting paid for this?
Of course not.
I didn't think so. I know you're not.
If they buy this book, I actually have 7 licenses. No, not exactly. It would have made me a fortune if the heroes and super wealthy talked about it a little more. Yoko Ono was invited. She didn't come. Barry Miller was invited.
We talked to our
Bill
veterans.
Donahue was
They are
invited.
desperate for them.
You came.
It's a civilian
Peter came because he's got guns.
counterpart to our military forces.
Despite previously being adamant it wasn't a reason to go into war in Iraq, the federal government now says oil is one of the reasons Australian troops are staying there. Launching the government's latest defence update, the Prime Minister says energy security, including oil, is something Australians need to think about when considering the consequences of a premature withdrawal
Next
from Iraq.
is an artist,
First,
it was about weapons of mass destruction. Then it was terrorism. Now oil has become a reason for the war in Iraq.
Obviously, the Middle East itself, not only Iraq, but the entire region is an important supply of energy for oil in particular.
Today, the Prime Minister launched Australia's latest defence update.
And we're coming up with Kyoda Dakin with Orange International and a section on sampling and licensing from this guy whose name I will look up in a second.
It's easy to satisfy your audience by appealing to their vanity. Listen to the opening track of John Holloway's A Basement of Broken Dreams, and you'll immediately understand, before even hearing a single bar of music, why I am enjoying this particular remix artist's latest release. And it gives me some kind of thrill to hear my own personal timbre mixed, reworked, and completely transformed through the manipulations of someone else's artistry.
Remember later how your mother told you about the different openings in your body?
I was taking these samples.
Like attention deficits.
An artist, a samplist, has taken a sample.
By the miracle of recording.
John Holloway is a recorded artist. He is also a remixed artist and a samplist. But these are just labels. What John does is take music and sounds created by others, transform the works, and create new sounds, beautiful sounds, gorgeous musical compositions derived from other recordings, but rearranged and transformed so skillfully, well, you'd have some measure of difficulty extracting John's source recordings from his final pieces. For example, take a listen to John's Blue Dreams.
Is this thing on? Is this on? Oh yeah, that's on. I don't know why it doesn't sound as loud.
DC 3000.
I think it's working. The files are taking a long time to load though. Alright, so that's Ted Turner and Peter Lewis talk of that later.
But wait a minute. Isn't that illegal? Isn't sampling wrong? No, not at all. Not in a brave new world which includes Creative Commons licenses. The RIAA's sad manipulation of copyright legislation, while pretending to protect the recording artist's royalties, have done nothing but leave us with a slew of restrictions aimed at protecting big five recording companies' coffers. So to protect the recording artist in the 21st century, Creative Commons has come to the rescue, developing a series of copyright, or is it copyleft, licenses designed to be more flexible while simultaneously protective of the artist's intent.
I need to wait for my cloud to sync.
These common needs are becoming increasingly popular and were recently showcased on the Wired CD, featuring, among other artists, the Beastie Boys, Chuck D, and Thievery Corporation. The particular deeds applied to the works on the Wired CD allowed anyone to freely distribute the artist's works and to remix, sample, and transform these works creatively.
There are a lot of delays on this one. These delays.
So why would anyone want to make their work available for free? As those who have done so can attest, opening up creative work to be freely distributed and/or sampled most often increases the likelihood that their work will actually be listened to by others. An artist, a samplist, a remix artist, has. I recently began podcasting, and I made my recordings available under a Creative Commons Attribution 2.0 license. Essentially, this is the most open license of them all, enabling anyone to copy, sample, and redistribute my work. They may even receive financial compensation for their use of my audio. The license I've chosen incorporates the This artist, his name is John Holloway. The website is nlphomx.com. That sounds fair enough. I'm just wrongly heard. But some artists may wish for a more restricted license for their work. And of course, stricter deeds are certainly available.
A vast virus database has been updated.
This is By making my recordings available this way, John was able to utilize the material without having to negotiate through a third party, such as the RIAA. He also wasn't required to contact me for permission to use my voice, since I had already granted that permission through the license, though, out of courtesy, John did so anyway. This saving in overhead and time can be vital to the creative processes of the artist, who may be working within a time frame that doesn't allow for days, weeks, or months of negotiating for copyrights. The artist can immediately continue focusing on what she does best, rather than having to become a copyright expert or hire a copyright lawyer to sort through the legal mess RIAA has created for us. John has chosen a slightly different type of license for his recordings than I have, a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike deal. The key difference between my attribution license and John's Attribution Share Alike designation is that anyone who uses John's work must also use the same license in distributing the resulting work. Share alike, in other words. So what I plan on doing, and John doesn't know this yet, but he soon will, is take some of John's work and sample it for my own podcast. I like to tell stories, and John's music provides for some outstanding atmosphere. The only problem I'm going to have with using John's work is enjoying his music too much. Enjoy John Holloway's A Basement of Broken Dreams by freely downloading it at the Internet Archive or by visiting his website, hysteria.com. This podcast is licensed as Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 2.0. This is
Peter, let me just ask you. You said something quite interesting in an interview on marijuana that I've never heard before, which is that it stimulated your creativity, your focus, made you a better manager, a better human being. Would you want to elaborate on that? Because most not that I'm taking a position on this, I think any addiction is made illegal, goes underground, and you can't deal with that. Prohibition is an example. But can you explain exactly the impact of that? Because you gave a variety of functions for going into that level of consciousness. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, I don't do it on the spot. I think you just did a good job of explaining it. My experience with marijuana has been 100% positive all the time. And you may admit some of this is lots of positive things.
It was good for your company.
I think so. I'm biased, but I think so.
Do you see any downside to it, though? Is there any hazard, like cigarette smoking has hazard?
Unfortunately, because it's not legal, there hasn't been adequate research done to find that out. There's a lot of evidence that it's not. It's also not addictive, but when you can't do research because it's illegal, you're greatly inhibited from getting facts.
But you made a point that it's beneficial for glaucoma and multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, those things have been proven. There's now a medicine that's being sold in Canada, which is a spray, a marijuana spray for multiple sclerosis.
How about driving cars when you're stoned?
It's better than driving when you're high on whiskey, I think.
It's certainly a much more serious problem.
I'm not advocating driving. I'm not advocating anything. I think we have 500,000 people in jail in this country because we're picking them up. We have 50,000 New Yorkers get arrested every year for possession of marijuana. It's crazy. It's expensive. It's unfair. It's racist. It's everything wrong.
And do you think you're on record as saying that the prison industry is involved on this?
I didn't say that. I think they
call them the jailers.
They certainly have motivation because they got a lot of people in jail. They get paid when people are in jail.
So
economic self-interest.
Again.
Yeah.
Now.
And this is Quinn Park with Pueblo Peoples.
To leave any final resolution to future generations. Final resolution to future generations. Leave any 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 final future generations.
Finalizer?
You look, it's the head of Walmart with the rubber stamp board of directors. And he's not the biggest paid guy. He's making $11,000 an hour, and he's got 1.5 million workers who make less than $11 an hour, $8, $9, $10. So before noon on January 2, he's made more than any one of 1.5 million workers. And did he earn that, or did he just have a crony board of directors?
Well, if I get a chance, you know, my issues, I mean, I'm interested in marijuana too, and I think it should be legalized. But because I think we got a lot of other problems that are a lot worse. We're spending too much time and money and effort on it, and it's like prohibition. You know, people are going to drink. I don't think marijuana is any worse than alcohol. And but my main issue is nuclear weapons and global climate change, overpopulation and family planning, and just generally preserving the environment, learn to live sustainably with that, with our little fragile planet down here, so that we can live for thousands of years. I'd like to see this. I like this. I like people. I am one, you know, and I'm proud of it. I'd rather be a person than a mouse. All right. If we were a bunch of mice, we'd really have trouble. We wouldn't even talk. We couldn't be having this intelligent discussion.
All right, let's take something near to home here. After Fukushima, following Chernobyl, following 3 Mile Island, etc. You have Indian Point, a couple aging reactors. They've been in a lot of trouble. Hillary Clinton said that senators should be shut down. Andrew Cuomo, Attorney General, should be shut down. And they're having public hearings now. And within 30, 40 miles, you have 30 million people. And there's no way they can evacuate. Right. There's no way. Right. Okay, so they shut down Shoreham before it actually opened in Long Island for one reason only. No evacuation feasibility. And that was in Long Island. Now, what about some billionaires getting together and saying, we don't want to lose New York. You know, there's an earthquake zone here.
The greatest threat to New York and Moscow is an accidental or a madman launching the nuclear weapons. But let's get rid of them first. And I think nuclear power, we don't have to worry too much about it. It's going to have a real hard time now getting off the ground because very few people want a nuclear plant in their backyard. It's too expensive. It's not competitive. I think we should be focusing on wind, geothermal, and solar power, and replacing fossil fuel as quickly as we can, because that's what the scientists, the preponderance of scientific information tells us. Because if we let global climate change get out of control, we're going to have big trouble.
Everything you say is true, but you dodged the issue.
I did?
The issue is...
Which issue?
The issue is Indian Point.
Why do you get to define the issue?
Because...
You know, that was what I was worried about when we had dinner.
No.
He took over as... We were supposed to have a moderator. And then Nader takes over. Why didn't you just take over the United States instead of running for president?
Peter, look. Peter.
I thought about that.
Peter, listen, you're in the insurance business. The nuclear power has been serious critiques, unnecessary, unsafe. People think both major parties are failing. I'll have to step aside on that one.
Failing?
Yes.
The parties are failing?
Yes.
Both of them?
Yes.
Yet in holding scientific...
We got to vote for them.
Danny Dibling, LSD 2080.
In other words, they can't get anything done. They can't get done to Congress. They can't get anything done to a paralyzed society.
We've had a rough couple of weeks. You know, this stuff in the Middle East is shaking everybody. Pretty much all our people. We don't know what's going to happen.
Within the principles of our democratic
we've had the tornadoes and oil spills and all these other problems, tsunamis, and I think having viewers like me kind of shaking. I'd like to involve the element. Why? Give me some more Lindsay Lohan. I'm kind of happy. She gets back in the news. You don't mean it. The worst is over.
Must avoid the impulse to live only for today.
I tell most of my friends that
for our own ease and convenience,
I would like to say that to
precious
y'all.
resources of tomorrow. We cannot
I have become the
material aspects of our transformation without risking the loss also of the physical and spiritual. We
democracy must survive for all generations to come, not to become the insolvent factor of tomorrow. During the long lane of the history of civilization, America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Be instead a proud confederation of mutual trust and respect. Such a confederation will be one the weak has come to the conquering table with the same competence as we would. Protected as we are by our moral, economic, and military strength. That table was scarred by many facts, let's face it, cannot be abandoned as a certainty agony of the battle. Disarmament with mutual honor and confidence is a continuing imperative. Together we must learn how to compose differences, not with honor, but with I confess that I laid down my official responsibilities in this field with a depth of suspense, more and more pressure, as one who is witness to a horror and a lingering sadness, as one who knows that another war could surely destroy the civilization which has been so slowly and painfully built out of thousands of years. I wish I could say tonight that a lasting peace is in sight.
I just got put the Secretary General of the United Nations is putting on the committee to abolish poverty, the Millennium Development Goals. So I agreed to do it, and that's another non-paying job, but I'm going to do it. But I don't know how to eliminate poverty. Hell, we've got to do it in 10 years. You know, I mean, that's all poverty, not just the poverty here in the United States, but poverty in Haiti and all these other places where it's really tough.
Yeah, the UN Development Unit has put out the most detailed plan year after year on what it takes to abolish world poverty.
You know, they were doing it mainly because of the increase in the economy in China. A lot of poverty has been eliminated. Now, this latest recession that we've had has pushed a lot of
they were saying
prices going up.
Yeah, they were saying basic nutrition, basic health, clean water.
We're making progress in a lot of areas.
And you know how much they were saying it will cost a year? There was between $40 and $50 billion a year.
That's not very
$1 billion. That's
well, you know, the global military budget is $1 trillion a year, and the United States spends half of that. And that doesn't include the wars. The wars are $1 trillion apiece. You know.
That's part of the decline. The decline has been in citizens accessing all three branches of government, executive, legislative, judicial, and at the state level. And that's because, you know, corporations are engaged in strategic planning. And the bottom line of the strategic plan is that they want control over everything that can give them sales or take away sales. That's called monopoly, corporate globalization, NAFTA, WTO, and all that. Or any control over any source of power that can challenge them. And one source of power is the judiciary, as you pointed out. Great environmental, civil rights, civil liberties victories in the past. And so they have been embarked on this tort reform, or they call it tort reform. So more and more wrongfully injured people are shot out of the courts just to get in. They can't get an adequate compensation award. They limit the awards by state law that are lobbied through by the insurance companies and the auto companies and the whole corporate cabal here. And of course, the more the Republicans win, because the Democrats increasingly do not listen to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was reelected times, which is stand for the people and stop dialing for corporate dollars, and stop being corporatist. So you get more Republican victories, and they appoint right-wing judges. And now you have that in the Supreme Court. And again, those politicians in the Supreme Court, Scalia and Thomas and others, 5-4, 5-4, 4-4. They are rendering decisions like Citizens United, which, as many of your listeners know, opened the floodgates so corporations now can spend unlimited money, like Exxon, to defeat or elect the candidates of their choice. So you just think of democracy as 1,000 doors opening up to citizens, to give them voice, to give them remedy, to give them action, to give them collaboration rights like trade unions and cooperatives. And each one of these stores is either being closed or on the way to being closed by the spectacular day after day strategic planning of our government, of our politics, of our elections by corporations. They're planning our genetic inheritance, commercializing childhood, corporatizing education. I mean, that's what they do. They don't need conspiracy. That's what they do every day with their consulting firms and their trade associations. And it's about time we, the people, started planning our future as befits the preamble to our Constitution, which last I remembered did not start with we, the corporation. It started with we, the people.
Will Rogers at a campaign rally for FDR in 1932. I don't...
Good evening, my fellow Americans. First, I should like to express my gratitude to the radio and television networks for the opportunities they have given me over the years to bring the important messages to our nation. My special thanks go to them for the opportunity of
his farewell speech. Which he coins the phrase
after half a century in the service of our country, I shall lay down the responsibility of office as, in traditional and solemn ceremony, the authority of the presidency is vested in my successor. This evening, I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell, and to share a few final thoughts with you, my countrymen. Like every other citizen, I wish the new president and all who will labor with him Godspeed. I pray that the coming years will be blessed with peace and prosperity for all. Our people expect their president and the Congress to find essential agreement on issues of great moment, the wise resolution of which will better shape the future of the nation. My own relations with the Congress, which began on a remote and tenuous basis, when long ago a member of the Senate appointed me to Westminster, have since ranged to the intimate during the war and immediate post-war period, and finally to the mutually interdependent during these past 8 years. In this final relationship, the Congress and the administration have, on most vital issues, cooperated well. To serve the nation good, rather than mere partisanship, and so have assured that the business of the nation should go forward. So my official relationship with the Congress ends in a feeling, on my part, of gratitude that we have been able to do so much together. We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. 3 of these involved our own country. Despite these holocausts, America is today the strongest, the most influential, and most productive nation in the world. Understandably proud of this preeminence, we yet realize that America's leadership and prestige depend not merely upon our unmatched material progress, riches, and military strength, but on how we use our power in the interest of world peace and human benefit. Throughout America's adventure in free government, our basic purposes have been to keep the peace, to foster progress in human achievement, and to enhance liberty, dignity, and integrity among peoples and among nations. To strive for less would be unworthy of a free and religious people. Any failure traceable to arrogance or our lack of comprehension or readiness to sacrifice would inflict upon us grievous hurt, both at home and abroad. Progress toward these noble goals is persistently threatened by the conflict now engulfing the world. It commands our whole attention, absorbs our very being. We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method. Unhappily, the danger it poses promises to be of indefinite duration. To meet its success, there is call for not so much the emotional and transitory sacrifices of Christ, but rather those which enable us to carry forward steadily, surely, and without complaint, the burdens of a prolonged and complex struggle with liberty with the state. Only thus shall we remain, despite every provocation, on our charted course toward permanent peace and human balance. Crises there will continue to be. In meeting them, whether foreign or domestic, great or small, there is a recurring temptation to feel that some spectacular and costly action could become the miraculous solution to all current difficulties. A huge increase in newer elements of our development of unrealistic programs to cure every ill a dramatic expansion in basic and applied research. These and many other possibilities, each possibly promising itself, may be suggested as the only way to the road we wish to travel. But each proposal must be weighed in the light of a broader consideration. The need to maintain balance in and among national programs. Balance between the private and the public economy. Balance between the cost and hope for advantage. Balance between the clearly necessary and the comfortably desirable. Balance between our essential requirements as a nation and the duties imposed by the nation upon the individual. Balance between actions of the moment and the national welfare of the people. Good judgment seeks balance in progress. Lack of it, we eventually find imbalance and frustration. The record of many decades stands as proof that our people and their governments have, in the main, understood these truths and have responded to them well in the face of threats and stress. But threats, new in kind or degree, constantly arise. Of these I mention two only. A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our armed hosts might ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armament in it. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large army is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic process. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compare the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together. Akin to and largely responsible for the sweeping changes in our industrial military posture has been the technological revolution during recent decades. In this revolution, research has become central. It also becomes more formalized, complex, and costly. A steadily increasing share is conducted for, by, or at the direction of the federal government. Today, the solitary inventor, tinkering in his shop, has been overshadowed by task forces.
Next up, we have latex
in laboratories and testing. In the same fashion, the Free University, historically the fountainhead of free ideas and scientific discovery, has experienced a revolution in the conduct of research. Partly because of the huge costs involved, a government contract becomes virtually a substitute for intellectual curiosity. For every old blackboard, there are now hundreds of new electronic computers. The prospect of domination of the nation's scholars by federal employment, project allocations, and the power of money is ever present and is gravely to be regarded. Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite. It is the task of statesmanship to mold, to balance, and to integrate these and other forces, new and old, within the principles of our democratic system, ever aiming toward the supreme goals of our free society. Another factor in maintaining balance involves the element time. As we peer into society's future, we, you and I, and our government must avoid the impulse to live only for today, plundering for our own ease and convenience the precious resources of tomorrow. We cannot mortgage the material assets of our grandchildren without risking the loss also of their political and spiritual heritage. We want democracy to survive for all generations to come, not to become the insolvent phantom of tomorrow. During the long lane of the history yet to be written, America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate, and be instead a proud confederation of mutual trust and respect. Such a confederation must be one of equals. The weakest must come to the conference table with the same confidence as do we, protected as we are by our moral, economic, and military strength. That table, though scarred by many past frustrations, cannot be abandoned for the certainty agony of disarmament, of the battle. Disarmament with mutual honor and confidence is a continuing imperative. Together we must learn how to compose differences, not with arms, but with intellect and decent purpose. Because this need is so sharp and apparent, I confess that I lay down my official responsibilities in this field with a definite sense of disappointment. As one who has witnessed the horror and the lingering sadness of war, as one who knows that another war could utterly destroy this civilization, which has been so slowly and painfully built over thousands of years, I wish I could say tonight that a lasting peace is in sight.
For recovery, for discovery, save me from falling down.
We have to skip part of the song, otherwise I don't have enough time.
It's about time to show.
Happily, I can say that war has been avoided. Steady progress toward our ultimate goal has been made, but so much remains to be done. As a private citizen, I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road. So in this, my last good night to you as your president, I thank you for the many opportunities you have given me for public service in war and in peace. I trust in that service, you find something worth it. As for the rest of it, I know you will find ways to improve performance in the future. You and I, my fellow citizens, need to be strong in our faith that all nations under God will reach the goal of peace and justice. May we be ever unswerving in devotion, confident but humble with power, diligent in pursuit of the nation's great goals. To all the peoples of the world, I once more give expression to America's prayerful and continuing aspiration. We pray that peoples of all faiths, all races, all nations may have their great human needs satisfied, that those now denied opportunity shall come to enjoy it to the full, that all who yearn for freedom may experience its few spiritual blessings. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility, that all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources of scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth, and that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. Now, on Friday noon, I am to become a private citizen. I am proud to do so. I look forward to it. Thank you, and good night.
Remember, that guy was a war general president? Well, that sounds optimistic for anyone these days. Really.
I know when I went into the Russian nuclear launch facility out in the woods 30 miles outside of Moscow, they took me down 6 floors and took me in the room. They said, this is a room where the attack will be launched against the United States, and the whole wall was covered with maps of the U.S. and the rest of the world. And oddly enough, down at the corner on the side of the wall was a picture of Jesus Christ. And I said, what in the name of God are you doing with that in here? I said, y'all are supposed to be godless communists. This is when it was still the Soviet Union. And they said, well, we just wanted to be sure to cover all the bases. And they told me, they said, you can sit in this chair. There was a chair just like this, except it was kind of an easy chair. And then there was a box on the table with a red button on it. They said, you can just sit there, but for God's sakes, don't push the red button. I said, why not? They said, that's the button.
You know,